Welcome, everybody, to today's office hours. My name is Mark Stepp. We are going to be doing another Q&A, kind of a Ask Me Anything type session. Today is kind of a fun type of day whenever I get to do these. This is kind of like off the top of the cuff type thing, answering whatever questions we have, and I really do enjoy it. With me today, I also have Kendra, and she has some amazing answers and stuff to things. So we're going to get started and go through some of the predetermined questions that we've got, but also just kind of open it up for anything that you guys have. So you can just put in the chat area down in the bottom of the screen, just put in whatever questions you have. If you would like, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you, or actually you can just unmute yourself and ask the questions if you would prefer doing it that way. Either way can work. For those that don't know me, my name is Mark Stepp. I am the Chief Innovation Officer here at Realvolve, and just always in the mood of helping people understand the why of things, but also, inventing new creativity things, the pieces that help you guys do your job better, easier, and faster. So that's kind of about me. Kendra?
Yep. And for those of you that do not know me, my name is Kendra Rouse. I work in our premium services department. Myself and my team work one-on-one with you to make sure that your system is set up for success, that you have the workflows and the customization that you need to do things better and with more automation. So today we're going to be talking about, like Mark said, we're going to be doing these question and answers periodically. And my goal for that is that you guys do use that chat, and that as I'm going through things, feel free to stop me and ask questions, because I'm happy, as I go through things, you may have questions that pop up, or you may be kind of just stuck in a certain area on something else, and something may be completely off a topic. And you might want to just throw that question in chat and we'll answer it after we go over a few of the questions that we've received recently. Today, we're also going to go through additional help and support, give you some more information on our premium services department. And then I encourage you to check out our Realvolve's Facebook page for previous office hours. We're going to be talking about automation, turning your data into dollars. There's a lot of things in there that are going over the contact cross section and empowering the solo agent that we already have on that Facebook page. So I encourage you to go to facebook.com/groups/Realvolve to take a look at that. All right, so a few of the things that we're going to cover today. How do I set up and use my signature in Realvolve? So you may already have a signature in Realvolve, but my hope is that we take a look at some of the ways that you can empower your signature that you already have, some ways to use our templates, things like that. We're also going to go over how you can forward if you maybe you received an email from someone outside of Realvolve and you need to get that into Realvolve. How do you do that? We're going to take a look at how you set up an activity or an email to prompt to be sent upon the completion of another activity. And we're also going to go through some settings. So specifically, the question came through, why can't my sub-user delete transactions? And you have a lot of customization options when you have sub-users, additional users in your account, and you can really control what they can or can't do. So we're going to go through some of those things today. Additionally, we're going to go over the connectivity for ChatGPT to make sure that if that is something that you're going to be using, that you know how to get that set up in your account. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, as I go through, just feel free to stop me, ask me questions about what I'm talking about. And if something pops in your head or you have an additional stuck somewhere you want to talk about, just go ahead and put it in the chat. Okay, so if you're using ChatGPT, the first thing that you need to do is enable it in your account. And basically, you're going to go into ChatGPT and you're going to get the code out of there and you're going to put it into Realvolve. And so how you do that is you're going to come up here in your top right-hand corner, you're going to click on Settings. In the left bar, you're going to scroll down to Integrations. About halfway down, you'll see OpenAI API key. The API key that you're going to need, here's an example of one, is generated directly from your OpenAI account. And so you have the link here. So if you click on this, it will allow you to open up your OpenAI account and generate an API key. You can have multiple keys, but what you want to do is take that key that they generate directly in your account, and you're going to paste it into your Realvolve account. Once you've done that, it will it'll save it for you, and you'll have access to the ChatGPT. If you put in a code that's not correct, you're going to get an invalid API key prompt up here. Once you've put that in,
That can also happen if one of the things that happened early on with OpenAI, whenever they first did the ChatGPT connectivity, got really popular. A lot of people were able to get in, get on, and they were giving out, as part of beta program, basically $15 worth of credit. And in that credit, then you were able to do lots of different things with ChatGPT and OpenAI Playground. What happened, though, is after it kind of got out of beta, I think they brought it down to about $5 for a little bit. And right now, I don't know if there's any free version or not. I need to confirm that. But if you go in and it does give you an API key, but it doesn't work, or it gives you an error at that point where you're putting that code in, it's probably because you need to put in a credit card. And just to let you guys know, that $15 that they originally gave me, I used it for 3 months pretty solidly, and it only cost me $3 of that credit. So it's extremely cheap to use it, and the amount of the volume of information that I was able to produce was just incredible. So don't be afraid to put in a credit card in there for ChatGPT's, or at least the OpenAI API key. It's like 0.0006 cents per 1,000 tokens, which may not mean anything to you, but what it means is you can produce a lot of content on very little amount of money.
Question.
yeah.
Hey, Kendra, this is Elias.
Hey.
When we originally integrated the Chat GPT, we were on the beta one, and now the free one, and we've paid for the GPT-4. Do we need to update the key?
The key itself should be still good, as long as you've got credit or your credit card in the OpenAI piece. I think you're good. With ChatGPT as being its kind of commercial product, getting their $20 a month plus account is different than using OpenAI's API key. Just understand that. So they are two different things, even though it's the same company.
Right.
So you need to go into that link. And Kendra, can you go into settings?
We're actually on the paid subscription.
Okay. So whenever you click on that link right there, it takes you to that API area, and go ahead and log in under yours. It won't give you the same key as mine, and it won't even show the key. But what it does is it will take you into an area, and you'll have to go into the billing area probably, and at least put in your credit card. The APIs, and you'll do this for any product, whether it's Realvolve or whatever. But in here, it gives you that API key. As long as you've got information in that billing on the left-hand side, then it should, the payment method, it should then allow you to utilize the APIs, and whether it's Realvolve or any other application that uses the API keys. Technically, we're using the ChatGPT's API. There's really two APIs. There's one for OpenAI and one for ChatGPT, and we're using the ChatGPT one, but for whatever reason, they keep them separate in the billing, it looks like.
Yeah, and I would encourage you to, when you're setting this up, because I've accessed this kind of same page several different ways. But this link kind of just takes you directly to where you need to go, and so that you can access that API key. And then additionally, it's under here on users API keys. And then if you don't have a key yet, you can click create new key. And once you do that, that's what you're going to take back over into Realvolve, and you're going to paste that in. After you've done that, if you're inside your templates or a transaction or a contact, when you access your template, this icon for ChatGPT, when you click on it, then you have the ability to start using it. And if it's not set up, it's going to prompt you to go into your settings and set it up. But once you've put that API key in, then it is ready to use either on templates or on one-off emails.
That answer
Anything
your
else you got on that, Mark?
No, that's the main thing. We had our session yesterday with Michael Thorne and had several questions afterwards about just how do we set that up, and wanted to make sure everybody knew that as well.
I'm a little bit confused. I have a ChatGPT account, but I don't have an OpenAI account. Which one am I supposed to have that you're talking? I don't know anything.
Yeah, so OpenAI is the company. ChatGPT is their product. It's actually the commercial product of OpenAI. So whenever you go into Realvolve and go into the settings area, and click on the link, it's going to take you to this OpenAI API key. So right here on the screen, we click on that link. That link's going to take you to OpenAI. And whether you've got ChatGPT or OpenAI, you'll log in the exact same way. But for whatever reason, they've chosen to have two different billing possibilities. If you've got their ChatGPT kind of plus account, then you can utilize ChatGPT like you normally would. But you have to have in the billing area, put in your credit card in OpenAI in order to utilize any kind of API connectivity through any other third party like us, like Realvolve.
So when I put my credit card in, am I putting it in for the low cost option like you were talking about, or that $20 a month premium thing?
No, it's the low cost thing.
Okay.
And it charges you basically per month with a little bit of whatever usage you've had. I think it may run I don't remember what it did. I did this, it's been a few months, and they may have changed it too, but I think it just checked to make sure it's a good credit card. And then at the end of the month, it charged you for your usage. And I think last month it was a $1.75 or something like that. I mean, it was dirt cheap for what I use it for, and I use a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, thank you.
Uh-huh. And do realize though, and we use the ChatGPT 3.5 turbo setting in Realvolve, which is the cheap version. There is GPT-4, which is the newest ability for large language models. Getting a lot of tech terms here, I'm sorry. It's more expensive, and honestly, it doesn't give you that much better quality or content. So I think, for most things, if you're doing any kind of really analytical type things, GPT-4 is the preferred way of doing it. But for what we do for content, creating sentences and stuff like that, you do not need 4 point anything. And what we're using is the best option for you.
Okay. I have a question, Kendra. Yeah. It's Andrea. Since we keep talking about the ChatGPT, will you guys put something together for us that can possibly make our lives easier and best uses with Realvolve and ChatGPT? I know that we can use it to write emails or compose things. And there may be things that we're not thinking of. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, we actually did a one of these office hours on ChatGPT, and that's on Facebook. I can find that link and send it to you.
Okay. Or I can
That would
look for it if you think it was that long ago, but I can go on there. But you can send me the link, Kendra. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get that to you. And then once you watch that, if you have additional questions or there's just things that aren't clear on there, definitely let me know and I'll make sure those get addressed. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
send
great.
me. I've got some other resources that I can make you aware of as well. Some YouTube channels that I've listened to and resources that I've got access to. So
Okay.
it's amazing, guys. I mean, if you're not
Okay.
using it, you need to be.
It's crazy. I can only tell you how easy it's made certain aspects that I don't know, it's became a crutch. Let's put it that way.
I know sometimes I was writing holiday emails the other day and it's like, one of those things that you have so many other things that your brain could be using its capacity for, let the AI write those type of things or give you a refresh
Yes.
on content that you've had for 2 years. So definitely
Yes.
a cool tool to start using.
Yes, it is. And it will do a illustration for you because I have the bot service. So you have access to all the other ones, which I haven't even really played in, except for I can see uses for it, but you could go crazy with it. So anyway, I'll let y'all continue.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
sure. Maybe we can post those additional resources with this video, Mark.
Yeah.
So the next
Okay.
question that has come up is how do I set up and use a signature? So I want to cover some basics on here. If you don't, I hope, you probably, well, one, Realvolve provides you with a basic signature. Definitely encourage you to update that or optimize it. And then I kind of want to go over some additional things that you can do. So to access your signature inside of Realvolve, you're going to click on your templates and you're going to type in signature. When you do that, you're going to see signature and signature enhanced. A lot of people will instinctively want to rename these templates. Do not do that because the system looks for those. And so what I mean by that is if you go to send a one-off email, then the system goes in and it pulls that signature into that email. It is looking for the term signature enhanced. So if you rename that email, it doesn't know what to look for. And so we want to keep this verbiage of what is called the same. So signature is for your text messages. Signature enhanced is for your emails. And so as you can see, I already have one set up here, but I'm just going to push this to the bottom and pretend like I don't have one. If you have never set up your signature inside of Realvolve, it will default to your first and last name. So I have a couple options. Okay, I could come in here and just say Kendra Rouse. I could put my address or my phone number in here, etc. Also, if I just hit space like this, I don't like this spacing. I can hold down shift and hit enter, and I can get kind of a tighter spacing on that. We actually suggest that you use merge fields instead of pulling in information or having information live in multiple places. And so what I mean by that is if I come over here to my settings, accidentally stopped sharing. If I go into my settings, one of the first things you probably did when you had your Realvolve account was fill out the information in your backend. And so under my account, you have information that lives here about yourself. You have your name, okay, here we go. This information is specific to your profile and it holds a lot of information. And so why I suggest using our merge fields is because some of this information can change, okay? What if you change teams? What if you change your website? What if you change your work address? Things like that. So if you have went into your signature or multiple other places in the system and you have hand typed in your address or your phone number or something like that, and that information changes, you essentially have to remember every single place in the system that you put that information, which sometimes is impossible. I see this a lot with people that change brokerages. And so what I suggest is, have this as your source of truth where you put this information here and then you reuse it other places if you can. And how we can reuse that is through merge fields. So instead of putting in my phone number, typing it out, I'm going to hit bracket, bracket. And when I do that,
What's going on?
It's not prompting me to. Here we go. Okay, so when you hit two brackets in Realvolve, it should pull up a list of of merge fields for you, okay? So what you're gonna do, and typically with your signature, a lot of times we're gonna use current user. And so as you can see here, this one that I've already set up, I'm gonna pull in current user first name, last name, my team name, my company name, my cell phone, my work phone number, my email address, and my website. Every single one of those lives here. So if I'm using a merge field, it is going to go into my back end of my settings and look for that information here. If you use a merge field and that information is not filled out, it will pull in blank. So it's super important that you have that filled out. So when you're creating a signature, you can come in here and start using these merge fields. You also have access to this template icon, which is what I've used down here. So if you hover over, kind of looks like a piece of paper, and you click on it, it's going to give you a few options. So the one I use is here, and the main difference is kind of how it pulls in your photo. The photo that it's using is this photo. And so it's either going to come in this shape or a circle or this shape, depending on kind of what you want. If I click on it, it adds it in. Even though I don't see my photo here, it's still going to generate it. So let's say I put in my signature and I want to see what it looks on the front end. If I go into any property, transaction, contact record, and I click on email, I can preview how this looks. I need to do some spacing on this one, but either way, it went into settings and it found all this information for me. I didn't have to type any of it in. So could I come in here and wipe this out and just put my team's name? Yes. But again, the reason I encourage you to do it through settings and through merge fields is so that you can update that information in one place if you need to. Another thing that I typically like to do on my merge fields is make them clickable. And so as you can see here, if I click here, it's going to, well, if I was in preview mode, I would prefer that if somebody receives an email from me, that they're able to click on my phone number and it prompt them to make that phone call. Same thing with email. If they click on my email, it would prompt them to open up an email and start typing an email to me. Same thing with my website. If they click on my website, see how this is not clickable? I would want them to be open another tab and then go to my email. And so I have to do a couple things to do that. So if I'm trying to make my cell phone clickable, what I'm going to do is highlight my merge field and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come up here to link and I'm going to change this protocol to other. I'm going to type in TEL : and I'm going to paste in my merge field. Okay. So what I've told this is make what I have selected a link and I've told it what to do. I've told it it's a telephone number and I've told it what telephone number to try to dial when it clicks on it. When I click OK, I can see now that this is changed or highlighted, and I can kind of do the same thing here. So again, I'm going to copy, I'm going to link, change my protocol to other, because I don't want to leave it on HTTPS. This is not a website that it's going to. It's actually a telephone number, so TEL. And then now I've told it to go to my work phone for this specific instance.
TEL is a special command for Mac and Windows machines to understand that it is a telephone number link.
With an email address, it's going to work kind of the same, but a little bit different. Again, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to link it, except this time the prompt looks a little bit different. Okay, it knows that the link type is an email, but what I've done here, because when you first click on this, it's going to look this email address. So it's saying, what email address do you want it to try to send it to? And I've put my email address in here because I'm telling it when I click on this, the system should instinctively know that it's sending an email to this current user's email address. And so when I've done that, I've linked that. Same thing, I can copy my web address, hit link, and here, two options. If in your settings,
I think because we're sharing the screen, it's taking up your
giving it a
bandwidth.
delay.
showing that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Let me grab another one. Okay. So what I'm trying to show you is what you choose here is dependent on how you have your settings in your backend. And because your web address, if it is www, it will need this HTTPS. But if in your settings, you have this information here, okay? So if I had this saved as HTTPS, www, something like that, which a lot of people aren't going to do that. But the reason I'm noting this is because it depends on how you have this in your website as dependent on how you're going to set this up. If I have set up my settings with the HTTPS and I also told it to add the HTTPS, it essentially is not going to work. Okay, so for most people, you probably won't have this HTTPS in here, in which case your www needs to be begin with that. And so you would want to include that. In the event that I had it in my settings, I would choose other, and you're basically just telling it not to add that additional information. But because I didn't save it like that, I'm going to go ahead and add it, and I'm going to hit OK. So what I've done then now is I've made my information clickable. Once you have updated your signature to whatever you want, then you're going to hit save, and then that will start working for you. Some other template that is pretty helpful is these icons. So if you put your cursor wherever you want this information added, access those templates. If you scroll down to the bottom here, you have access to individualized social media icons. And then at the very bottom, excuse me, you have one with all of them. And so you can see here's 32 by 32, 48 by 48. You have access to a lot of other things as well. So in this case, I'm just going to take the smaller version of all social media icons, and I've added them to my signature. These are not auto linking to your social media account, so we're going to still need to link to those. And so if I click on one, again, I'm going to go up to my link, and right now it's defaulting to facebook.com. I would want to paste in my Facebook page and then hit OK. And I'm going to do that for each social media icon that I want. Let's say I didn't want to do Pinterest. I can just delete that out, and you have the ability to kind of customize those. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts on signature. Anything you want to add to that, Mark?
No, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities with merge fields, and we do encourage you to use those. If this is overwhelming to you, don't be afraid to use a standard type merge field and just use it. Just remember that at the end of the day, if you change companies, change teams, change phone numbers, stuff like that, you need to go in and make a change to that signature file. And the problem is if you're using it in lots of other places, that becomes a challenge. But if you're just using it in the signature and you're afraid that is a little bit overwhelming, just copy and paste it from
exactly. And right, so option B is always, I just came into my email, I copied this, I came over to my signature, and I pasted it in. Okay, this works too. Just know that if you have hard information in here, like Mark's saying, if you update it, you'll have to update it multiple places.
Right.
So there's no, right way or wrong way to do anything. You just want a signature that looks good and that it works for your team. The other thing that I would
the real key is just making sure that you leave that name, like Kendra said. Enhanced is for email, signature is for text messages. It was also for our original basic. We used to only have one signature, and we had one email editor, and that editor wasn't as good. So we created our enhanced editor, which is what everybody uses now, and it just kind of defaulted to the signature enhanced. But signature is used by text messages, where signature enhanced is used for emails. Just remember that.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I would add in signature for text messages is, so here I've got static information. This is going to pull the Realvolve team. This may be helpful if you have sub-users that are, kind of using the system or speaking on behalf of their team leader. by all means, you can use merge fields inside of your text message signature as well. The other thing that I would point out is we've been talking about current user. I think it's beneficial to know that there's another merge field that you can use of primary user. And so the difference being is current user is whoever's logged in. So if you have an admin and that admin is using their signature and they have a merge field of current user, it is going to pull in their information. There may be times where you want it to pull in your information as the account owner. And so if I switch that and said, maybe I said admin. Okay, so in this case, admin for primary user is not going to pull in the admin's name if they're sending it out of their sub account. It's actually going to pull in the main account holder's information. So you do have access to some of the sub users have access to some of the primary users' information using those merge fields as well. We also, because our text messages are a text only line, sometimes we'll put verbiage into our text messages to tell people that this is a text only line and that they can call you directly at whatever number or give them additional steps if they need that. The other thing I would say on settings is it's important to come into settings in your email tab. And this auto signature is what this being on is telling the system. If I come in here and I start to do a one-off email, should it pull in my email address automatically? And so the system's doing that because I have this toggled on. So I would I would suggest that you come into your emails and make sure that you have your settings set up how you intended them to be. Okay. So our next question that we're going to jump over to is, how do I forward an email to a contact, property, or transaction? I know sometimes, our workflows do a really good job of handling things as soon as possible. So most of the time, your communication should be originated out of Realvolve, but we understand that you're going to get those emails sometimes directly into your personal inbox, and you need to get them associated with a contact, property, or transaction. So if you access any contact, property, or transaction, there's going to be an eye icon. And if you hover over it, you can see that there is an email address. If I click on this eye icon, it's telling me that it is copied to the clipboard successfully. And so if I come over to my email or somebody else is sending me something, you can do this for forwarding information to yourself. If I had received an email and I want to get it in Realvolve, I'm going to forward that email to this email address. If there is an attachment to the email that I forwarded, that attachment will be pulled out and it will be filed inside your file tab. And you have that for every contact, property, or transaction. So if I came into Beth Homebuyer and I copied her icon, anything forwarded to that email address would be filed under her contact record, and any files attached to that email would be filed under the files tabs.
One big advantage to that, and it does take a little bit of setup each time that you do it within your own main email account, but you can set up message rules that auto forward to an email. So if something, say you get an email from Outlook or Gmail or whatever, and you set up a message rule that says, if it contains,
that we need people to look at, which is in our world really.
We got somebody. Here we go. If the email contains a certain address, say 123 Main Street, auto forward it to this email. That way, as emails come in, it can auto forward to whatever record within Realvolve automatically. And it just makes a real good way to file and keep information pertaining to each email that comes in automatically. Just an option.
Yeah. Okay, so
hey,
our
Mark,
next.
This is
Yes.
Victor. Quick question.
Hmm?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Victor.
So the attachment goes to the file. Does the email go anywhere, or the email disappears?
the email will log itself under notes and correspondence. So as you can
Okay,
see here, this is a text message. And so if this, if it had an email, it would tell you what it is. And so the email here itself would be here. And again, that file would take itself over to files and log itself there. But yes, you would see record of it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and if there is an attachment, it auto puts it into the files tab for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so the next question we have is, can I set up an email based on the completion of another activity? You can absolutely do that. So let's take a look at how that would look or what that means. So I'm going to go into my buyer contract to close. And inside my buyer contract to close, I have a task to schedule closing. And so let's take a look at that. All right, so here's my task. 6 days before closing, I want to coordinate my final walkthrough and closing. So I put my merge fields in here. What is the date and the time of the walkthrough? What is the date and the time of the closing? And so I then want to have a task that when I complete this, essentially when I know what the date and the time is for that closing, I want an email to go out automatically, okay? And so what I can do is I can come down here at the bottom and I can add another activity. I'm going to put my A in parentheses, letting myself know that this is going to happen automatically. And I'm going to say send, I think I'm buyer contract to close. So I'm going to send the buyer verification of closing schedule. I don't want to do this. So I scheduled the task to schedule the walkthrough and the closing 6 days before closing. I could say, okay, 3 days before closing, I want to send verification of closing. I cannot ensure that I have the walkthrough and the schedule done 3 days before closing. And so to make this task a little bit smarter, what I can do is I can come in and I'm going to make this task to send the verification email over to the buyer contingent on me completing that other step. And how I do that is I'm going to come into schedule and I'm going to use a computed date, not off of the start date, but off of a completion date and the completion of an activity. Okay, so the activity that I wanted to prompt off of is coordinating the final walkthrough and closing. So I've told this activity, do not populate yourself until 0 days after the completion of me completing this other activity. It could be a day after, it could be 2 days after, it could be weeks, months, whatever. You have a lot of things there. But the way I currently have this set up is as soon as I mark that other activity as complete, then the system would know to then create this activity. I can then come in and create my auto email. I'm going to send email automatically, email, and I'm going to send a closing and walkthrough confirmation email that I had created previously. The other thing when you're setting this up, if I wanted to CC the buyer too, I could do that. I could CC the buyer agent if the admin's the one sending this out. I could click this to update the last email date. And what that's going to do, it's going to go into the buyer, buyer two, and the buyer agent's account and update the last date that they were emailed for you automatically. And I'm going to hit OK. I also have to set my width to the buyer. And the reason I put the buyer in the party member, I could have came in here and put buyer two. I could have put everybody here. The reason I did not do this and the difference between CCing them is putting them here in party members says send each one of these people a separate email. And I typically don't want to do that on confirmation type emails like this because people get confused when they see it just to themselves and they don't see other people CC'd on it. So in this case, I've said send one email to the buyer, CC the buyer two and the buyer agent, send this email out automatically as soon as I have marked this other activity as complete. Any questions on that?
That one can be confusing, but it's extremely powerful. And whenever you think about, delaying any activity based off of the completion of another activity, the uses of that, this one instance is great, but there's lots of different types of possibilities there as far as a delayed response for any particular activity. Extremely good.
Absolutely. Works really well on those things that you just don't know, until they happen, or this one thing needs to happen before this other thing can happen, and you cannot instinctively know that date, right off the bat.
Yep.
Okay, and so the last question we have here is, why can't my sub-user delete a transaction? So inside of your settings, if you are a main account holder, if you scroll down on the left, you will see users and permission. Sub-users will not see this option. It is something that the main account holder will see. So as I can see here, it tells me that this account is the account owner, and it tells me that this sub-user has admin access. Admin access is the highest level of access. It basically gives them kind of blanket high-level access, and that may be sufficient for some of those admins that can pretty much, work as you, or you want to give them that higher level of access. Oftentimes, there's certain things that you don't want sub-users to be able to do. And so when you deselect, make them an admin, I'm going to see this, click here to configure security permissions. Okay, so there's a lot of things that we can do here, and we'll start down here. Specifically, when you have this open, you can choose whether or not this sub-user has access to certain things. Without Google Sync checked, they do not have the option to enable or set up their Google Sync. You can control whether they can import or export things, if they can merge duplicates, whether they have access to the team report. And what the team report is on your dashboard. One of these widgets is team reporting. And so if I have access to team reporting, I can see what everybody on the team is doing in terms of volume, average sales price, and number of sales. And so you may choose that you don't want your team to have access to that, in which case you would deselect this button. Also with tags, if I have this selected or deselected that this person does not have access to tags, I'm not saying that they cannot use tags. I'm saying that they don't have permission to create new tags. And so since the system is very sensitive to capitalizations and misspellings, if you create two things with kind of an off spelling, or a sub-user does that, it will create additional tags. And so sometimes you may want to say you can use tags, but you don't have permission to create new ones. You also have the option to say what inside the system they can or cannot use. So you have access to control contacts, property, transactions, workflow and template access, task access, document access, and note access. So this setting here says, since for all users is not selected, this is talking about this sub-user's account. And so this is saying this person has access for their own information. If they want to create templates, if they want to create contacts, if they want to do these things under their own account, they can do that, but this does not give them permission to see any of your stuff. So this is probably how you're going to see it as default. So if I came in and I wanted to, I can add new, and what that's going to do is do a drop down. I can come in here and I can choose very specifically what I want them to do, or maybe I want them to have read access to everything. And so what this says is they can look at it, but they can't update it, they can't delete it, but I'm giving them access to everything. If I needed to come in and be more specific and say, I want them to have access to workflows and templates, and they can update those for all users. So what I've done here is they have access to all of our own stuff. They can update and look at templates and workflows, but they wouldn't be able to see like your contacts. They wouldn't be able to see those certain things. So specifically, if a sub-user cannot delete a transaction, it's because that they do not have update access or delete access level for all users. And so they're either going to get that one way by having this transaction selected, or all sections being able to update or delete for all users would give them that access as well. Anything you want to add to that, Mark?
No, not really. The biggest challenge is knowing your users. And while many agents just say, yeah, this person has great computer skills and they won't delete records improperly, this, if you wanted to, you could go in there and say delete for, don't even let them delete their own records. And that kind of is an extreme, but I've seen it done. But definitely, if you don't want them to be able to delete other people's records, just make sure that you don't have that for other users checked in the delete. But that's typically the biggest challenge that most users have, is just determining what rights you want to give your user if you're the admin.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got about 15 minutes left. So I want to kind of open up and see if anybody has any questions or, concerning things we talked about today, or just otherwise. Is there anything inside of Realvolve we can help you answer today?
As a side note,
one question, just right now. When y'all post the office hours, do you guys put in there kind of what the relevant topics were instead of just office hours? Like if I want to go back and look at this for, let's say, adding a signature or whatever we just discussed today, is there a way to search it in there, or we just need to look at the whole entire office hour?
So whenever, and I did put the link for previous office hours in the chat, so you can go straight to our YouTube channel where we have a playlist just for office hours. Inside of there, you can do a search, and I believe it does search the closed caption pieces as well. And we do closed caption all of our stuff. Typically we'll have, the topic, a given topic. We don't always do the Q&As, which are different topics like what we're doing today. But on those, I have tried in the past, and I'm not sure that I did it to the last one, however, but I'll be sure to go in there and add in the description pieces of what did we talk about. And I'll certainly do that on this one and go back to our other Q&A one that we did and try to do the same thing. One of the things that ChatGPT does, if you've got the paid version of ChatGPT, you do have the ability to do searching through there and bring in some videos and say, find me this, whatever, just as a FYI. I've used it on a couple different things and it's just incredible. But what it does do is it uses that closed caption search to determine where certain things are at and figure out close proximity of the recording and what the content was, and then also respond to any questions.
Yeah, and then also on the Facebook page, there's kind of a little synopsis of what that office hour covers on the majority of them, so that can be kind of helpful too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I
Who
have a
else has got
question.
some
This is
questions?
Victor.
Yeah.
Under the contacts in the contact tab, bottom right, you have the record type as person or company, and active contact is yes. What changes when you toggle those?
Yeah. Let me go back into Realvolve so everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, so person or company, the main purpose of that was to determine, is this contact in the database considered more of a company type contact or a person contact? And based off of that, which field, as far as phone number, address information, should I use whenever I'm doing a view all of contacts? So if you look at this record here, most of the information is filled out in the home field. And if the information is filled out in the home field, it would probably be considered a person. There could be a situation where you just happen to know the agent, you're close friends with them, you've got their home address, but you've also got their work address. And for this particular person, typically you really want to treat them more as the company, a company address. So you could go down into that that record type and change it to company. By doing that, what it'll do is whenever you do the view all on the left-hand side, it will use whatever address, phone number, mobile phone information on the right-hand side in this list. So
yeah, so do you see how when mobile and emails are blank for Beth Homebuyer, they're blank
yes.
because we told the system that this is a company. And so by default, it wants to display the company's information. Whereas if I go back in Beth Homebuyer and I toggle this back down to person, I'm telling the system that Beth Homebuyer, we should look at their home by default. And so if I come back in here, look up Beth Homebuyer again, it should display her information. Now you see that because we told it that we should be looking in the home field.
Okay.
That's the main thing. Now on active, kind of the purpose of the active is I want to keep somebody's contact information, but whenever I maybe do a mass email or something like that, I don't want to include them. If I turn them active to no, any kind of mass or automated process will not select them. They're not active. If you do any kind of, if you do a view all and you select a bunch of records, if somebody is not active, they will not be sent out.
Yeah, and so use case for this, sometimes, there's instances where let's say that Beth Homebuyer, passed away
One
or
of the
something.
things that we really wanted to focus on.
And you want to keep Beth Homebuyer in your system because Beth Homebuyer is attached to previous transactions and maybe you sold a property in the past. And so if you delete that record, any connection to that past sale is also going to be deleted. But maybe you want to pull up and send an email to your past clients. And so if, as Mark was saying, if you do a filter for past clients, technically Beth Homebuyer does qualify to make that list, but you wouldn't want to include that person in that email, and this deactivation of this contact down here would exclude her from getting that email.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
If I set up a workflow base and one of the things is birth date for nurture, for example, and I don't have their birth date, so it ends up in my activities multiple times, does that go away as soon as I put a birthday in? Or is there anything I can do while I don't know what their birthday is?
So whenever you add a workflow that uses a birthday, but there is no birthday given, it does create the activity. One of the things that Realvolve does is if later in time it's given information that it didn't know, it will update that information accordingly. So what will happen then is if you put in a birthday and that workflow activity didn't know the date, it will then, as soon as you do enter a date, it'll put a date in those activities. So just putting a date in there. If you don't have the date, you don't think you'll ever use the date, just delete the activity is kind of the best thing to do.
Thanks.
Got a few more minutes. Any other questions?
How do you guys like these Q&A? Do we need to do them? I mean, we've this is our second one in what, 2 months? We did one last month or month before last?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got a question in chat. Let's see. Actually, we've got several in here. I've been tasked to set up an email template and incorporating a video that can be sent out to a group of clients. How do I do that?
Yeah, so if you're a BombBomb user, you can, inside of your templates, if I go to create a new template, I'm going to access my BombBomb icon. So for this icon to be working, you would have to go into your settings under that integration and log into your BombBomb account. Once you've done that, you have access to put your cursor wherever you want, click on this BombBomb icon, and it's telling me I need to reauthorize my account. But then I have the ability to either record a video right here, or I have access to my database of videos inside of BombBomb. So that's going to be the easiest way for you to insert or use video.
If the video itself is not something that you've recorded, if it's something that you want to incorporate from, say, YouTube, Vimeo, stuff like that, one thing that many times those services will give you an option to create a web-based preview. I want to caution you from using that. Don't use those, because typically they use what's called iframe. And whenever you try to include an iframe inside of an email, because iframes can pass viruses, most email companies will strip those out prior to you even seeing it. So the thing that you can do is go out to whatever YouTube video or whatever. There are services out there that will allow you to create a GIF or GIF preview, and like a 6-second preview of it. Once you create that as an image, as a GIF file, you can include that in your template and then create a link on that takes you to that video. You don't really want to try to include the video itself unless you just put a link to the video in there. You can certainly do that, but uploading a video that is an image will give you that ability to still have the motion as a GIF file. It still has the motion aspect of it, but it doesn't necessarily play the entire video.
Mm-hmm. And what I just did here is I uploaded an image, okay? And so a GIF file is going to be treated the same as an image. And so if I am not using BombBomb, as Mark was saying, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm either going to get a static image, a JPEG or PNG file, upload that, or a GIF file and upload it as you would a normal attachment. If I do it that way, I have to click on the image or the GIF, and I have to link that video to it. And so I'm going to select it, put a link on it, and I'm going to paste in the URL of where I want it to go. Essentially saying if someone clicks on this video or this image or this GIF, throw them over to this URL. The other option, if you don't want to use an image format, is you could say click here to view video. Same thing, you're going to highlight whatever you want to be clickable. You're going to link to it and paste that YouTube or whatever other service in here, essentially telling that person that they could click on that text and also be thrown over to that video.
The real benefit to using BombBomb for similar things like this is it's really seamless. They have made it so that you can either record or upload an image, and they convert it to the GIF file. They create the link. They do all the processing for you in a matter of milliseconds, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and it's a really clean look too. So definitely, if you're not using BombBomb, I would look into it. But those other two ways that we talked about, they work as well. So before we go today, I just want to let you guys know about our premium services department. I know several people on here are current clients of mine, and they're finding benefit in that Navigator program. So, Realvolve is complex in the fact that it can really automate your business and streamline things, and it's super powerful. And sometimes it's beneficial to work hands-on, one-on-one with somebody that can, provide you with that suite of workflows, customize them, and work with you directly. So if that's something that would benefit you, we have weekly, bi-weekly, and go at your own pace programs. Feel free to email me or sales@realvolve.com. My email is kendra@realvolve.com, and I can get you more information on that. For being on our webinars, we do give you 25% off of our weekly and bi-weekly service. So again, just email me if you have questions. Coming up on our office hours, we're going to be talking about automation in your business, turning your data into dollars, part 2. The last time we kind of went over the basics. We want to go into a little bit more of really taking the information that you have in your contacts and using that to your advantage. And then we'll also have a Google add-on sheets for reporting that we're going to be going over in upcoming office hours as well. Outside of these office hours, if you need help, take a look at your black bar at the bottom of your screen when you're logged into Realvolve. You'll see a how do I that has a helpful search. So if you type in create a signature, it will tell you step by step, click here, then click here, and then click here. That can be beneficial. If you see something in your system that's not quite working right, go ahead and submit a support ticket. The help button is a searchable database, kind of our Google that gives you access to previous articles and sources of information. And the contact us is a live chat that you have access to as well. So that's all we have for today. We appreciate all of you for being here. We look forward to the next one, and we hope that we're providing you guys with value. That's what we're here for. If there's certain things that you guys just don't see that we're covering, and you're in a certain place in Realvolve and you'd love to cover certain topics, just reach out to us and let us know, and we can add that to our future itinerary.
Okay, thank you. It's extremely helpful.
Awesome. Thank you for coming today.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a great day.